Let's start with the undeniable life exists. You're here, I'm here, and we're surrounded by living things. But when you strip it all down to its bare essentials, one question still looms over everything: how did it all begin? Not just how humans came to be, or how evolution shaped the world we see today, but how life itself, raw, basic, undeniable life, first sparked into existence. Here's the thing we don't know. For all the advancements in science, for all the breakthroughs in genetics, chemistry, and cosmology, we're still stuck at square one when it comes to explaining how non-living matter became alive. And that's not just my opinion, it's a fact that even the smartest people in the world admit. Richard Dawkins, one of the most prominent voices in biology, openly says that science hasn't solved this mystery. He's confident we'll figure it out someday, but right now, nothing. We're talking about one of the biggest unanswered questions in human history, and no one, not the greatest minds, not the most advanced labs, has cracked the code. But let's break it down. Life is built from molecules, right? DNA, proteins, RNA, these are the building blocks. You can think of them like puzzle pieces. But here's where it gets tricky: the pieces don't just fall into place on their own. They need to be arranged in an incredibly specific way. It's not like throwing a bunch of Scrabble letters on a table and expecting them to spell out a sentence. It's more like needing someone to actually write the sentence in the first place. Scientists have tried to recreate the conditions of early Earth to see if they can figure out how those pieces came together. One of the most famous experiments was done in the 1950s by Stanley Miller. He set up a system to mimic what the Earth might have been like billions of years ago, and managed to create some amino acids, the basic components of proteins.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
At the time, this was huge news. People thought we were on the verge of understanding how life began. But here's the catch: amino acids aren't life. They're just ingredients. They're like finding flour, sugar, and eggs in a kitchen. That doesn't mean you've made a cake. And in the decades since Miller's experiment, we haven't gotten much further. Scientists still can't explain how those ingredients came together to form something alive. Now, let's talk about odds. The chances of life forming randomly are so astronomically small, they're almost impossible to comprehend. Some scientists have compared it to a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a fully functioning airplane. That's the level of improbability we're dealing with. So what does this mean? Does it mean life is impossible? Clearly not, because we're here. But does it mean life is random, or is there something more going on? Here's where things get interesting. The universe seems to be perfectly tuned for life. The Earth is the right distance from the sun. We've got water, air, and all the elements life needs. The laws of physics, the constants of nature, they're all just right. It's like the universe was set up specifically to support life. This has led many people to wonder if there's a blueprint behind it all. If the universe is a machine and life is the result, then someone or something must have designed it. DNA is a perfect example of this. It's essentially a code, a set of instructions that tells cells what to do. And if there's a code, there must be a coda. DNA isn't just random molecules thrown together. It's information, and information doesn't come from nowhere. But here's the twist: if life was designed, why is it so complicated? Why not make it simple, straightforward, easy to understand? Why leave us with questions, with mysteries, with gaps in our understanding? Maybe that's the point. Maybe the complexity is part of the design. The fact that we have to work so hard to understand life might be what makes it valuable. If everything was simple and obvious, we wouldn't appreciate it. Think about it like this: when you solve a difficult problem, you feel a sense of accomplishment. The struggle makes the victory sweeter. Maybe the same is true for life. The search for answers isn't just about finding the truth, it's about the journey itself. But let's not ignore the frustration. The fact that we still don't know how life began is maddening. It's like staring at a locked door with no key in sight. And yet, that locked door keeps us moving forward, keeps us searching, keeps us curious. And this is where faith comes into play, not blind faith, but the kind of faith that says, there's a reason for this mystery, whether you call it God, the universe, or something else entirely. There's a sense that the questions themselves have meaning. If we ever do figure out how life began, it might not give us all the answers. It might just lead to more questions, and that's okay, because the search for truth is what makes us human. When you look at the complexity of life, the fine-tuning of the universe, and the sheer improbability of it all, it's hard not to feel like there's something bigger at play. Whether you see that as evidence of God's blueprint or just the wonder of existence, one thing is clear: life is no accident. It's a masterpiece. Let's dig deeper, because we're far from finished. If life is a masterpiece, then it's not just about how it began, it's about why it began. There's a purpose woven into this mystery, and whether you see it as divine intent or the natural unfolding of the universe, the fact that we're even capable of asking these questions is extraordinary. Think about it: out of all the chaos and randomness in the universe, something happened that allowed consciousness to emerge. We're not just alive, we're aware. We can think, create, feel, and reflect. And that makes us unique. If life was just a random accident, why would it produce beings capable of questioning their own existence? Why would it create minds that can look up at the stars and wonder, what's my place in all of this? Here's where the idea of a blueprint becomes even more compelling. Consciousness isn't just a side effect of life, it's central to it. The fact that we're here, asking these questions, is evidence that there's something special about life, something intentional. And yet, when you look at the natural world, it's clear that life isn't simple or straightforward. It's messy. It's full of struggle, competition, death, and survival. Animals hunt and are hunted. Ecosystems thrive and collapse. Even within our own bodies, cells live and die every second. From the smallest bacteria to the largest whale, life is a constant cycle of creation and destruction. If there's a blueprint, it doesn't seem to prioritize ease or comfort. Instead, it prioritizes resilience, growth, and complexity. Life isn't static, it's dynamic. It evolves, adapts, and changes. And that's not just true for biology, it's true for us as individuals. Think about your own life. The moments that shaped you the most probably weren't the easy ones. They were the challenges, the struggles, the times when you had to push yourself beyond what you thought you were capable of. Growth comes from resistance. Strength comes from struggle. And maybe that's part of the blueprint too. Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the search for life beyond Earth. Scientists have spent decades looking for signs of life on other planets, moons, and even in the remnants of comets and asteroids. The idea is simple: if life is so improbable here, maybe it started somewhere else and spread to Earth. This idea, called panspermia, suggests that life might have hitched a ride on space debris and landed here billions of years ago. But here's the problem: after all this searching, We found no definitive evidence of life anywhere else in the universe. No microbes on Mars, no fossils in meteorites, nothing. This could mean two things. Either life is so rare that we're the only ones in the entire universe, or we're looking in the wrong way. Both possibilities are staggering. If we're truly alone, then the significance of life on Earth becomes even greater. It means we're not just part of the universe, we're its witnesses. And if we're not alone, it means life is part of something much bigger than we can imagine. Either way, the search for extraterrestrial life raises another question. If life exists elsewhere, does it share the same blueprint? Would alien life have DNA? Would it evolve the way life on Earth does? Or would it be something completely different? And if it's different, does that mean there's more than one blueprint? Here's another layer to this mystery. The universe itself seems designed for discovery. Take something as simple as light. The laws of physics allow us to see and understand the world around us. Even the way stars emit light makes it possible for us to study them and learn about the universe. It's almost as if the universe wants to be understood. But why? Why would the universe or God, or whatever you want to call it, create beings capable of understanding it? What's the point of giving us the ability to explore, to learn, to discover? Is it just curiosity, or is there a deeper reason? Let's circle back to the origin of life. The fact that we don't know how it started isn't a failure of science, it's a reminder of how much there is left to understand. It's a humbling thought. For all our intelligence, for all our technology, we're still standing at the edge of a mystery that's billions of years old. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the questions are more important than the answers. Because questions keep us moving forward. They keep us searching, exploring, and growing. But here's the thing, if life is part of a blueprint, then it's not just about molecules and chemistry. It's about meaning. It's about purpose. And that means the origin of life isn't just a scientific question, it's a deeply personal one. What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be conscious? What responsibility do we have as the only known beings capable of understanding the universe to protect and nurture life? These aren't just philosophical questions, they're practical ones. Because if life is rare, if it's as improbable as scientists say it is, then every life matters. Every living thing is part of something extraordinary. So what do we do with that knowledge? How do we live in a way that honors the blueprint, whether it's God's design or the natural order of the universe? Maybe it starts with humility. The kind of humility that comes from realizing we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. The kind of humility that reminds us to care for the planet, to care for each other, and to never stop searching for truth. Because here's the bottom line, the origin of life isn't just about the past, it's about the future. It's about what we do with the time we have, the knowledge we gain, and the lives we lead. Life is a gift, a mystery, and a responsibility. And whether we ever truly understand its origins, one thing is clear, we're part of something incredible. So what's next? Where do we go from here? Keep going, because the answers, or maybe even better questions, are waiting. If we're part of something incredible, the next question becomes, what are we supposed to do with it? It's not enough to just recognize the mystery of life or to stand in awe of the fact that we exist. Awe without action is empty. So how do we align ourselves with the blueprint, whether it's God's creation, the universe's design, or something even deeper that we can't fully grasp yet? One thing is certain, life, as improbable as it is fragile. Look around. Every living thing depends on a delicate balance to survive. From the air we breathe to the food we eat, everything is connected. And yet we live as though this balance doesn't matter. We exploit resources, destroy ecosystems, and treat life, both human and non-human, as disposable. But if life is part of a blueprint, if it's designed with purpose, then it's not disposable. It's sacred. And that changes everything. It means that every decision we make matters not just in terms of our survival, but in terms of honoring the greater design we're all a part of. So let's talk about responsibility. If life is a gift, what are we doing with it? Are we living in a way that respects and protects the blueprint, or are we tearing it apart because we're too distracted, too greedy, or too short-sighted? Here's a hard truth: we're the only species on the planet capable of understanding the fragility of life, and yet we're the ones most responsible for threatening it. We know what's at stake, but we act as though we don't. Why? Is it because we're afraid to admit how small we are in the grand scheme of things? Or is it because we think we're above the blueprint, that we can rewrite it to suit our own desires? But here's the irony: the more we try to control life, the more we lose sight of what makes it meaningful. We focus on power, success, and material wealth, thinking these things will bring us closer to fulfillment. But real fulfillment doesn't come from what we take, it comes from what we give. And maybe that's another part of the blueprint, the idea that life isn't just about existing, but about creating, nurturing, and giving back. Think about it. Every living thing, from the smallest plant to the largest animal, contributes something to the world around it. Trees produce oxygen. Bees pollinate flowers. Even the bacteria in our bodies play a role in keeping us alive. So what's our role? What are we contributing to the blueprint? Are we building something that will last, or are we leaving behind destruction? These aren't abstract questions, they're practical ones. Because if life is rare, if it's as improbable and precious as we've been saying, then wasting it is the greatest mistake we can make. But let's get personal for a second. What does this mean for you? It's easy to talk about life in big, abstract terms, but at the end of the day, your life is part of the same blueprint. Your existence, your choices, your actions, they all matter. Think about the people you care about. Think about the things that bring you joy, the dreams you have, the struggles you faced. None of that is random. It's all part of the same improbable, interconnected story. And if you're part of the blueprint, then you have a role to play in it. But here's the twist: your role isn't something you can figure out just by thinking about it. It's something you discover through action, through trying, failing, learning, and growing. The blueprint isn't a set of instructions, it's a framework. It's a way to live, not a list of rules to follow. So where do you start? Maybe it's as simple as paying attention to yourself, to the people around you, to the world you're a part of. Life is full of signs, connections, and opportunities, but we miss them because we're too busy, too distracted, or too focused on the wrong things. And maybe that's one of the biggest lessons the origin of life can teach us, that the mystery itself is the point. Not just solving it, but living in it, embracing it, letting it shape the way we see the world and the way we treat each other. Because at the end of the day, the blueprint isn't just about how life started, it's about how it continues. It's about how we take what we've been given and use it to create something meaningful. So what does that look like? Maybe it's about taking care of the planet, because the Earth is the only place we know of where life exists, and it's our responsibility to protect it. Maybe it's about building relationships, because love and connection are some of the most powerful ways we can honor the blueprint. Or maybe it's about pursuing knowledge, because the more we understand the world, the closer we get to understanding the blueprint itself. But whatever it looks like for you, one thing is clear: life is a gift, and it's up to us to decide what we do with it. And that brings us back to the beginning, to the question of how life started and what it reveals about the blueprint behind it. The truth is, we may never fully understand the origin of life. We may never find all the answers we're looking for. But maybe that's okay, because the mystery isn't something to solve, it's something to live. Life isn't just about figuring out where we came from, it's about deciding where we're going. It's about taking the gift we've been given and using it to create something beautiful, something meaningful, something that lasts. So here's the real question: what are you going to do with your piece of the blueprint?